Hello and a warm welcome. I'm Griha Atul and you're watching the News 18 Global. We begin with the BRICS group of major emerging economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, which will be holding its 15th Heads of State and Government Summit in Johannesburg between August 22nd and 24th. Remember, the first in-person one after 3 consecutive years of virtual meeting owing to COVID-19 pandemic. So all eyes are on Joburg this week as the BRICS Summit is set to begin, and the leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa will be hosted by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now on to the key aspect of this summit. China and India are in the spotlight as Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping will be conducting bilateral talks on the sidelines of the meet. Remember, this will be their first scheduled meeting since the Galwan clash in May 2020, which was a standoff that was impacting bilateral ties with minimal diplomatic engagement between the two nations over the last 3 years. The two leaders did have a brief encounter at the dinner in Bali in Indonesia, though, during the G20 summit in November 2022. Let me take this across to my colleague Siddhant Mishra, who now joins us on this live stream. Siddhant, an important meeting that is all set to commence from tomorrow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is headed out to Joburg, but the key aspect is the bilateral with his Chinese counterpart. Would like to understand what are we learning vis-a-vis that, because even the MEA briefing today really touched upon those aspects.
Well, that's right, Greha. There's a lot of anticipation, especially with regard to Prime Minister Modi, in person participating in the BRICS Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. And we have this confirmation from Government of India that tomorrow morning at around 7 a.m., Prime Minister Modi is going to fly from New Delhi to Johannesburg, and his plane is likely to land at around 5:15 in the evening. This is what the senior officials in Government of India has confirmed to us. So, Griha, for the longest time, and perhaps what international media has been, or perhaps was reporting, was that Prime Minister Modi is likely to skip the BRICS Leaders Summit or could join the meeting through video conferencing. But at last moment, perhaps few days before this meet, both Prime Minister Modi and South African head of the state spoke over the phone, and Prime Minister Modi assured him that he's going to come in person to participate. Now, the second most important aspect is the participation of Xi Jinping. When SCO meet took place in Samarkand, both leaders didn't have bilateral talks.
Yes.
When when G20 meet took place in Indonesia last year, so it was a very casual talk that both leaders had at the time of the dinner, which was hosted by Indonesian president.
Yes.
This time around,
about
we could
that very
expect,
meeting,
yeah.
at the dinner meeting in Bali, there was a different kind of communique that was released by China, as opposed to what was in fact said by the Indian side. How does one read that difference in communication? And don't you think that also might be a deterrent by actually talking about talks, whether they will be progressing or the deadlock will remain between India and China, especially when it comes to the LAC issue?
That's right, Deha. So from last 3 years, there has been a situation of standoff between India and China, given what had happened in Galwan. There has been 17 rounds of corps commander level talks. There has been multiple diplomatic level talks. But in last 3 years, never ever once Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi sat together to discuss the border issues. Now, in fact, the meeting which you are referring to, Greha, in Bali, at the time of that dinner party, which was hosted by the president of Bali, there also, China side had their own version, Indian side had their own version. China side had to say that both leaders discussed the stability of the region, discussed about the stability of the region, where Indian side had to say that both leaders only exchanged greetings. almost a week back or maybe 15 days back, for the first time, Indian side accepted that yes, there were talks regarding the stability of the region. So somewhat what Chinese have been saying from last 1 year. So there's one very important takeaway, or perhaps what we could read between the lines, Griha, is that there is some sort of an effort which are being made from both sides, from Chinese side also and from Indian side,
Yes.
to forge some sort of a consensus. Perhaps we could also see it with this view that that the efforts are being made to bring Xi Jinping to India also,
Okay.
New Delhi, for G20 summit. So that could also be the one reason, or maybe India also wants some sort of a dialogue keep on happening with China. There was again a core commander level meeting last time around,
Yes.
a few days back before this particular BRICS summit. So, India is always positive when it comes to China, but India always wants border issues to be discussed first, then other range of bilateral issues.
Right.
Where China says that bilateral issues should not be compromised because what has happened on border. So these are the two different versions. But
And
slowly
that's
and
a key
gradually,
difference,
Greha,
of
we are
course.
witnessing that,
Yes,
yes, both
absolutely.
countries are somewhat coming on the same page.
All right. Thank
Back
you
to
so much for that perspective, Siddhant. Appreciate you joining us on this live stream.